Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video review, take a look at the LG Gram 14, a lightweight Windows 10 laptop that is easy to use and excels in battery life. I should start off this review by noting, first of all, that this is not the 2-in-1 variant of the LG Gram 14 that's out there. You're not going to get you're certainly not going to get a swivel laptop that can go back 360 degrees. You're not going to get touchscreen functionality that you can use with your finger or a stylus. You're not going to get any of that. This is a straight up laptop. So what you're looking at here is a 14-inch device that kind of carries over the same things that the other models have. I mean, the LG Gram 17, you would argue, is probably the flagship model. This is a smaller version of that, but of course it doesn't have some of those extra bells and whistles that the other variants have. Now that being said, it's still a pretty interesting laptop, and the reason why is primarily because it's really just a workhorse. I mean, rather than a beast, like a performance beast, I would describe this as a workhorse. And the reason is mainly because it's battery life. So I'm going to get to that in a second, but first I just want to point out that this only weighs 2.2 pounds. So it's very light. The magnesium alloy body, when you first look at it and you first touch it, you're thinking, okay, this looks a little flimsy. It doesn't look like a premium laptop. It doesn't even feel like one, but you'd be surprised. It makes it more rugged than you would think. And the lightweight is just perfect. I mean, it's just beautiful for so many reasons, especially if you're going to be portable. I know it's a little bit tough these days, but eventually, when you're looking to move around with a laptop, and even if it's just at home, I mean, this makes it a lot easier to do it. There are some caveats here. So the 1080p display is probably something that you may not be super keen on, and it's a 16:9 aspect ratio, which I think is fine for most people, but at the same time, 16:10 is growing in some popularity as well. It's also kind of weighted in one way. I should say it's weighted more so to favor battery life. So you can always control how much battery savings you want when using this in relation to how much performance you want. Now, the review model that I had has some pretty modest specs. So I didn't have I had a Core i5, 10th generation Intel Core i5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM. So, again, modest, right? Now the RAM is upgradable. You can get more if you want. I would say now, if you're going to use this for anything graphics intensive, so video editing, I actually wouldn't recommend this laptop for at all. Even if you were to use a Core i7 and you were to upgrade the RAM to 32 gigs, I mean, maybe in that particular case, but I think there are better laptops for doing that. You can do photo editing, and you certainly can do a lot of the other things. Like if you're, doing a lot of word processing, spreadsheets, things like that, browsing. I mean, all that's going to work with a plum on, on this machine. So that's not really the issue. For me, it's more so recognizing that you can't do it all with this. So even though it's convenient, there's a lot of things about it that are convenient, it's certainly not the performance beast. It's more of the workhorse. So a couple other things. I was a fan of the keyboard. I liked the key travel. I liked how spaced out the keys were. It just felt natural. Typing on this just didn't feel like I needed to learn much about the keyboard, which is, I can't say the same for every laptop. The trackpad I had some mixed feelings about. Windows 10 inherently has tap controls on its trackpads, which, especially if you're moving over from a Mac, is a little bit tough, I think, to get used to. But the gesture controls work well, and it is a responsive trackpad. So, LG wins in that regard. Beyond that, I think the fingerprint sensor was okay. It's part of the power button. I mentioned RAM earlier when it came to video. That is going to matter also if you're using photo editing apps a lot. Like if you've got Lightroom and Photoshop open, and then you've got all kinds of tabs open on your web browser, you're probably going to run into some memory issues. So thankfully, you can upgrade the RAM and mitigate that. So that would be good. But try and get this ideally with specs that ameliorate that from the start, as opposed to trying to upgrade this thing afterwards. I mean, really, the RAM's your only option. So if you have the option, I mean, you can get a Core i5 if your usage is moderate, but if you're looking for something more extreme, definitely go for the Core i7. Lastly, battery life. So I'm just going to mention that this is really the star of this laptop. So I easily went to 13 hours and more, easily. I mean, without breaking a sweat using this. And that, of course, is great for anybody who values that or prioritizes that for any laptop, like I do. So I like that. I'm sure you would if you were using it as well. Bear in mind, though, that the battery life is also excellent on the other LG Gram models. So the 14 doesn't have an advantage in that regard. The 15 and the 17 are just as good, possibly better, depending on what you're doing on them. So it is a great thing to have on this laptop, but it is not a sole feature that this one can lay claim to. So because of that, I think it'll come down to what size you want, really. This also, again, this is just a laptop. It's not a 2-in-1 like some of the other LG Gram models out there are, but it is a workhorse. It'll last, and it's actually more rugged than you'd think. And that's my review of the LG Gram 14. For the Best Buy blog, I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.